Welcome to Not a Gray Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Katy Rey. I interview ordinary people living extraordinary lives. I am a leader in the community, empowering others to live life to the fullest and be exactly who they are. I am joined with Susan Guidi today, and she is, let's just say, badass. I mean, she's going to talk to you, but I am super inspired by you, Susan. Thanks for joining.
I'm so excited, and I'm so glad that we get to meet this way virtually.
I know. I love it. I want energy. I love just feeling your energy, just inspiration and everything. It's really great to meet someone who is such an example of at any time you can change your life.
But I think we should all be that. I mean,
exactly.
You should be that for someone younger, someone older.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that should not be delegated to an age.
Not at all. Yeah.
What does Jane Fonda describe it of in her TED Talk? She talks about the view of aging, for instance, in my mother's time, was an arc, right? So an arc, which means you went up and then you were going down. And I got to the point, which I think for a lot of people happened during the pandemic, that the universe just sort of bitch slapped us into, you know what, maybe you could be better.
Yeah.
And I had been doing improv and stand-up comedy for a long time. And I was constantly not seen in that arena, except when I got up and did stand-up. But if you played improv with younger millennials, which I usually did, you were delegated the role of grandma. It was the arc. She couldn't possibly be good at 50 or 60. And Jane Fonda talks about it being a staircase, an ascension.
Oh, yeah.
An ascension. So the possibilities of that, an ascension, that means you're only getting better.
Yeah. After I talked to you, I actually signed up. I wanted to learn how to roller skate because I broke my wrist when I was super little and just didn't. And someone was like, you're getting old. You're almost 40. I'm 39. And I'm like, okay, it's just a number. Like I can do anything. And I want my kids to
say you're a baby. At 39, you will look back at 67 and went, I didn't roller skate? Are you fucking kidding me?
Right? I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it.
39. I should have been jumping out of planes.
No, thank you.
I should be jumping
out, Susan.
At this point, you know? So I think that we can only be limited by the words and the narrative in our brain. And it wasn't for me until the pandemic that when I made a decision to make this sort of, I'm going to give back. Because my backstory is with this transformation is that I have 3 children. The youngest is my son. I have 2 girls and a boy. And my son, not that my girls aren't, because I get a lot of flack when I speak and people are like, how come you don't talk about your girls? And I said, my son just happened to be this child that I think he was given to me for a purpose. Beyond obviously having a child, he was going to rescue me from not rescue me, but there was
I know. It's that little bit of spark you need when at a time when it.
I was going to be really I was a single mom to him. So when he went to medical school, in his 3rd year, he decided to go to Haiti to do a medical mission trip. Yes. And that was literally like 15 days before the pandemic started. Long story short, he only went with 4 people. He was completely out of touch because he was in a remote region and we had the pandemic. And I almost didn't get him back. And that fear of, am I going to have to go rescue him? What am I going to do? As many of us do in tough situations. I'm Catholic, I'm Cuban. We start praying all the rosaries, the novenas, all the things to please bring him back so I don't have to go rescue him in Haiti. And when he safely came home, I said, you got to make good on this. What are you going to give back? What are you going to do? And then I thought, okay, how many 60-something-year-olds are doing crazy things, like big things, world-changing things, right? And I went to Instagram and there weren't any. I just couldn't find them.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of, how come we don't have more pictures of that? And then I found this woman who in her mid-70s completely changed her health, built muscles, did it all naturally, worked her ass off. And at 75, she's an Instagram star. And I thought, I have to know more about her. And that set me off on this journey. The journey became being involved in what was called the Wonder Women program.
Yeah.
It was just about weight loss and muscle building and empowering women at an age where everyone had written us off because we were at the bottom of the arc. Mm-hmm. Instead, they were giving us a staircase and go, how high can you climb? And I'm doing this project right now. It's called 1,000 Days, because in 1,000 days, I'll be 70.
You're so awesome.
But try and fit into 70. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my reflections. So today's 998 days still to go.
It sounds like a big amount.
It does. But then when I think of how fast the last 1,000 days, that was the pandemic. And if you can ask yourself at 70, what'd you do in the last 1,000 days?
Yeah.
Did you stay true to yourself? Did you keep your promises? Were you the best person you said you were going to be? Because you said you were going to get back. And
what made you start this project? Is it a group of you? Is it just you?
No, it's just me. I have another friend who inspired me. She's inspired me a lot. There were a number of women that did, younger and older, that did this transformation program of the Wonder Women. And many of us just did it together when the Wonder Woman program was in its infancy. Yeah. So we were almost like the beta group, right? And the women, and I say this, I'm not so sure we'll see another group of women like the ones that did this during the pandemic. It was magic. And this woman has gone on to be a coach. She has an app. And she's young. I mean, she's really young. I don't know if she's even 50 yet. And she sort of inspired me because she put something on Instagram and then that went off and I went 70 and I have a hip injury. So right now what I'm facing, as many of us will, are those moments where one of the staircase, breaks, right? And you got to fix it so that you can continue to climb up. And I've dealt with just this sort of mind issue of I became a bodybuilder, I did this, and now all of a sudden I have a hip injury. I went to that very well-known space of feeling less than, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not this person. I'm not the motivational speaker. I'm not all those voices in your head. And I'm the kind of person that you can see that kind of has high energy. And I love the process. Once I'm done, I'm like, okay, on to the next one. I love the process. And when this woman said she was doing 1,000 days of keeping her promises to herself.
Powerful.
It's just like, just check those boxes. That's it. Few non-negotiables. Few. And you keep them. And then I thought, I'll be 70. I want that to look, and it doesn't have to be better because look isn't the word. I just want to be a better version of myself so that at 70, I really said, oh my God, I really have learned something and I'm continuing to learn. And so like I said, I do really well in a process.
Have you always been like that? Very organized, regimented?
No, I don't know that organized.
Well, I mean, routine wise, right? You're structured.
I think I'm very driven.
You're like organized? No.
I don't know that organized because I have kind of this messy desk approach to it.
Yeah.
I've just learned that that's okay because you can tend sometimes if you're driven to sit in that area of perfectionism. And I have several children of my own that are perfectionists, and sometimes they don't get as much done because
you're right.
Well, no, I couldn't start it now.
Not perfect.
I'm not ready. It's not perfect. What I've learned is just check the box. That's all. Just check the box, and all the other stuff of checking the box lends itself to your growth. Just and keeping the promises to yourself. Because again, I often say, I'm a woman of an era, especially in the Cuban Catholic community here, growing up here. You didn't self-love? What was that?
Yeah.
Love was you took care of everybody else. You're a good girl, right? But self-love, putting yourself first.
I'm married to a Cuban. I hear you.
What is that? I mean, in some of the Italian families that I grew up with in this area, Cuban, it wasn't uncommon for us to hear, I saved the meat for the boys. Deja carne para los niños. And you're like, but I need protein too.
Yeah, where's my protein? You're so right. I didn't even think of that, girl. Oh my gosh.
And our era was, mea culpa, just do everything. I was so committed that I remember, and I'm a stand-up, so I turn stuff into it. When I was a little girl, we were getting ready for First Holy Communion. And the rhetoric was at Villa Madonna, which was super Salesian, all girls, very strict Catholic, nuns in full habit. They would say to you, when you do First Holy Confession, your soul is a blank slate. Things could you have at 6? Really? Like at 6?
At 6,
how many could I have had? Right? And I remember this vision. I came at the movie and I was like, my soul. And I went to Sister Philomena, who was, oh my goodness, she was scary. And I said, Sister Philomena, as soon as we finish First Holy Communion, I'm going to commit suicide so I can go straight to heaven because my soul.
I'm clean.
And she was like, of course, here's the, don't you know suicide's a mortal sin? It's like,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, I think, that set the tone for something that I didn't really explore in myself until I was in my 60s. The world would still continue. If I said no to someone, if I spoke up, if I didn't agree.
Be nice.
I just be nice, but I think it didn't mean that I have to play small.
Exactly.
Playing small, I realized, no. Make room for me at the table. I brought my own folding chair. You need to get to know me because I'm just as important as anybody else out there.
You make waves though, like in every part of seasons you're in. When you were is it called a sonographer, weren't you?
I still am.
And you were like the first.
Oh yeah. Nobody even. Okay, here's another joke. Okay, so I am so old, and then you say, "How old?
How old are you?"
I am so old that when I started doing ultrasound was in its infancy. Like it was like being freaking Marie Curie.
What did you love to the kids?
Of ultrasound.
Wow.
And for me, I always loved a challenge. So if somebody said, no, you can't do this, I would just say, watch me. And I had studied nuclear medicine. And in those days, nuclear medicine, nobody knew what that was either. And then in a small department that I worked at in West Palm, a very wealthy heiress donated a bunch of money to the hospital, and they just bought one of the first diagnostic ultrasound machines, and nobody knew what. Here's this, I don't even remember what it cost, $100,000 machine?
Probably, yeah.
And my chief was just a piece of crap. And he was always negotiating stuff to get more money for the department.
Of course.
Somehow it fell under our department. And he said, hey, would you like to go work with that in the corner? And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And then it became my project. And then I began to realize this is amazing. And I
so cool.
myself. And the doctors would tell me, the doctors who I worshiped would say, it's useless. we have CT scans. Go back downstairs with your little images. Until 6 months later, there was an older man who had an aortic aneurysm.
Oh.
And I saved his life because I found it. And then they told me, we're going to hire a real sonographer. And my whole life, the joke has been is nobody knows what a sonographer is. I would apply for loans with my husband and they would put occupation stenographer. I don't transcribe notes. And nobody still almost to this day, sonographer, what do you do? Are you a tech? You know? But yeah, I have been a pioneer of ultrasound. And then I went to Johns Hopkins. This little Tampa girl went to Hopkins in its heyday with the gods of ultrasound. And then because no one here thought I was Latina ever. Growing up, everybody thinks
Italian.
But everybody looks at me and thinks, oh, she's a New York Jew. That's what everybody thinks, right? I'm a New York, but I'm Cuban Catholic. So when I went to Baltimore, everybody thought I was so Latina. So I would get called to translate.
Yeah.
The opportunity came to go to South America to give the first lectures that had ever been given in Chile. I didn't even know where Chile was. I had to take out an atlas. You know what an atlas is?
Yes, I know what an atlas is.
It weighs 40 pounds. And I'm going, where is it going?
Why did you have an atlas, though? Second question.
I didn't actually. It was my best friend's mother. We had to go to her house and look up Chile to see where it was I was going. And
That's so cool.
It was so cool. Like Chile had television cameras because it was like, we're bringing this high tech technology from Hopkins.
Yeah.
I was like 21. I thought I was the biggest badass in the world. There were television. And my Spanish was terrible. I didn't care.
Well, Cuban Spanish is a different type of Spanish.
I didn't speak academic Spanish.
Yes.
So you know what I thought? I could never do this again at this age. But at that age, I was so excited to be there that I thought, you know what? Whatever lectures I have to give, if I don't know the word in Spanish, I'm going to put an O or an A at the end of the word. That's what I'm doing. And I committed to that. So there was a lecture.
And I committed to that.
The lecture was on physics. I had to speak on physics with my shit scared. And I get to this slide that had peaks of ultrasound. It was the physics behind it. So I thought, I came to the word peak and I went, pica. No, that means to scratch. I'm going to pico. Here we go. So I'm like, ay, como ustedes se pueden ver, los picos de ecografía se van para arriba. And the audience is dying, dying. What I ended up saying was a very slang word for male genitalia that was going up and down. And they loved me. Of
course.
And that was the beginning of being the pioneer. And every big thing. So when I was getting divorced, it was almost like the universe said, we're going to give you a couple of things to help you, but you'll have your son and you're going to be exposed to this 3-dimensional ultrasound, which I was working at USF doing research. And my mentor had one of the first prototypes, and it took 3 of us to work it. Her, I scanned OB, and then this doctor from Colombia who hadn't revalidated his title yet, but he was a big IT guy. He was like the Wizard of Oz. And so it would take 3 of us to post-process the images. And when the baby would appear on the screen, like Wizard of Oz, I'd start crying. Because I tell people, when I saw 3D technology, I had waited my whole life for parents to see what I had already
knew was there
to process myself, you know.
So cool.
And that was, you know how many years ago that was?
How many?
It was 1999.
I love that you grabbed your coffee and you're like, guess how many years? And then it's like, oh, grab it, hold my drink.
I don't
guess
drink.
How many years?
So
I don't drink either. So it's like,
I definitely am a coffee person. But you know, I just think that what a gift. And then I had never run a business before. I was going through the worst situation in my divorce. I thought it was going to be bad. It was 100 times worse than what I thought. And I said, how much worse can it get? I'm going to buy. Oh, because the Colombian doctor leaned in one day and he said, GE is coming out. Well, it was before GE. It was a Korean .com company. He said they're coming out with the first commercially available machine. And I went, what? He goes, you should look at it. I spent $80,000 of my divorce.
Yeah, you did.
And I spent 2 years teaching myself at night how to scan,
cool.
Doing people for free, speaking.
Oh, yeah. I remember the option in my firstborn 10 years ago. There was an option for a 3D ultra, and I was like, sure. It was after, of course, a certain amount of weeks, but I was like, that sounds fun. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a face. Like, you're just like blown away. So you were probably
So now where we've taken, and is my specialty because I studied this during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Now what's mind blowing is we can do all this stuff at 8 and 10 weeks. You should see the images I can get of a 10-week embryo. We can see brain, stomach, bladder, kidneys, fingers and toes, the baby dancing. 10 weeks.
So I did IVF for all my kids.
Oh, well, so then you know.
But we didn't do like genetic testing. I mean, again, we started 12 years ago with that. But so we always knew like exact dates, like of everything, where other people like go in and they're like still trying to like guesstimate due dates and things like that. But it was cool. I love science, and God, I always say God and science collaborated for my kiddos. What a powerful batch. But it's really
like
cool.
I see God every day I walk into that room.
Yeah, for sure.
Every day I walk into that room and I have the chance of being.
What type of procedures do you see? Like, did they call a sonograph for like an aneurysm? Like, how did you find that when you saved that guy's life? Like, are they just like, go get a sonograph? Like, how does that come into your office?
For how he came to us, I think in his case, if memory serves, so the doctors didn't care. So we weren't really getting referrals. Okay. But what happened was, since I worked in nuclear medicine, we saw, especially in Palm Beach in those days, a predominantly geriatric practice. Mm-hmm. So sometimes if the patient had something on one of our scans, like a liver mass, for instance, I would take the patient and then just wheel them over into my ultrasound room to see what the liver looked like. And then I found this by accident.
Yeah, I always wonder how do they get to you? Like, is it a pain? Is it that, like, without, of course, not OB side, like
and now we're seeing a lot more women sort of take medicine a little bit into their own hands. So I do the same thing for gynecology, my mentor. So for perimenopause and postmenopause, I'm super passionate about that.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't scan well enough. And I think women should have ultrasounds on the decade. Just trying to but that's, oh girl, if it takes me this long to do 3D of the baby face, it'll be another 20 years before.
That's what I'm saying for women's. So I can't imagine, like, we were not taught anything about our bodies. That's one thing I want to make sure my girls know is about their bodies. And one thing is, like, I am I'm an advocate for my own. So I'll be like, I'm in super pain. I'm not usually in pain. Like, what's going on? But it's just like the things I've learned, and the fact that I was given birth control at 15 because I was an athlete, because I wasn't regular periods, and how quick they were to just give you birth control, and how my body, and injecting hormone. IVF is I don't wish it on my worst enemy.
I do IVF patients.
I don't wish it, the amount of injections I'm giving myself. But I was like, I need a full panel afterwards. Like, when I'm trying to get my body feeling good, I'm like, give me all the things. Like, I need to know what's going on in there, and you have to like say that. And I'm like, how is this not just something you're doing for me? And it's crazy. It blows my mind every day that
my mentor,
so crazy.
Her practice at USF was called image-based gynecology, because her thought was that the vaginal ultrasound was the exam, because instead of sticking your hand in like a cow, right, and just doing this, right, because that's essentially.
And also get rid of those metal things. Like, just give me an ultrasound. I'll take a transvaginal ultrasound over any day. Like,
But that's not the feeling of a lot of people. I have so many patients that come in and say they were hurt during the vaginal ultrasound, that they hurt them, or that the sonographers, they're so scared of the vagina. Sorry, sonographers, but it's true. They're so scared of the vagina, they give the patient the probe to put it in themselves.
That's hilarious to me, because I'm
That's
like,
not hilarious. If you don't know where the vagina is, don't scan.
Also, but like, what did this turn into here? Like, how are we hanging out right now? Like, I thought I was here for a medical
You
exam.
get to do it next. Yeah. Can I guide you? Can I press the buttons while you stick it in yourself? It's so stupid. I have so much to say, because that's when I started my own practice, because I saw we were moving in a direction where this is so you know what my next big thing is?
Love it. I can't wait to hear.
I am going to Northwestern University.
Oh, my stepdad graduated from there. I love that. Yes.
I'm going to be certified in a course that Alan Alda was, I don't know, you're too young, but he was an actor. Did a show called MASH. Anyway.
Oh, I know that. I know
Alan
that.
Alda believed that improv comedy had a place in medicine. So I'm going to be trained to teach medical improv, because I taught it to my son's medical school class, and it was a hit. And you know who benefited from it so much? The female doctors. Because the boys are already used to kind of saying poopy words and poop.
Yeah.
And boys just grow up. If you have boys, they're just really
I do have one boy.
I have grandsons, and the 9-year-old grandson, I'm like, do you genetically have a chromosome that says you will say poop?
I think so.
Yeah.
I said that the other day. I'm just like, why? And why are they just like farting while walking through my house? Like, get out of here. Like, get out of here. Oh my gosh, you're so right though. But I love that you're doing that.
Class. Yeah. And I want to use it to teach sonographers to communicate, because over the last 35 years, sonographers were told at the beginning of time, you're not going to talk to the patient. And then that just became a thing. Imagine if nurses didn't talk to you.
Oh. I know you're right though with that, because again, you've seen IVF patients, how often you see them. I would always come in joking, and I'm like, is someone going to buy me breakfast today before you violate me? Because we're going in today. And I'm like, did anybody bring us donuts? And I would like make a joke, and they're like, oh, Katie, come on. And I'm like, seriously, like, we're close. Like, we're now super close. Like,
and that's really, really, I think, so taken for granted that isn't important to the patient's psyche.
It is.
Right? So my OB patients, and one of the most, imagine doing all the IVF and you finally get pregnant, and
the anxiety
is a grouchy pants.
Grouts are just dry and like no emotion. It's
they don't talk to the patient.
I know.
So my legacy, if I make it, is to teach sonographers.
You're already making it.
How to talk to patients.
I love that. And I'm like a joke. I am a laughter and trauma kind of gal. I think that's why we get along so well. It's just a lot of laughter. And I always would leave. I could tell my demeanor with what type of like ultrasound or nurse. My dad's been a nurse for 55 years. So like, I know the type of so when I have a nurse that is just, I'm like, oh gosh, it's just too much. Like, I want to leave this doctor's office forever. And sometimes you expect it with the doctor. So I'm excited for you to just do like a whole vamp, like how you went in for your sons, because, people are always like, oh, they don't have bedside manner, but they can. Like they can.
Yeah, my son's a third-year resident right now. And I have to say, my son he was a stand-up comic with me. We did stand-up together. We did improv together. He's in a band. He's amazing. But I have to say that I've watched him in the last year, for third year, he's lost probably 15 pounds, and he has no weight to lose. And he was suffering from depression for a while because they get paid $13 an hour.
Residency?
Oh, yeah. $13. He would make more at McDonald's. And he's taking care of patients' lives. 13.
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Nobody does. It's hard on them. And it's like the life gets sucked out of them because all they can do is generate enough life force to be able to
finish it
all again the next day. You know? Then the fact that their finances have been drained, you know, he's in debt.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a team under you now?
Me?
Yeah, because your business, it's just you? I love it.
I love it. You know what?
Do you get hired to mentor, though? I feel like you would. Other sonographers, like
I wanted to
consult?
I'm just very picky. I should. Yeah, I
don't blame you.
You know, I'll tell you something that shaped some of my financial success. And I don't know that it's the best thing. And I'm in a space where I can manage it myself. I'm still giving the service that I want. I close the door and I'm super happy. But for years and years, while I was going through my divorce, words are powerful. A lawyer said to me, you're not going to be able to show a profit because the minute you start showing a profit, he's going to come after you. Yeah. And that unfortunately did come to fruition. He sued me every couple of years. Oh my God. And he's a physician and didn't need to. It was a nightmare.
What kind of human? I mean, like,
that's a whole nother.
It's crazy. It's
crazy. But I think a lot of women.
But that's why you didn't show a profit. And if you didn't get that advice ahead of time.
I think it just influences you again as a woman to say, well, you can have a business, but don't show a profit because he's going to. And I think that for the longest time stayed in my head. And then there came this point where I finally said, I've got to change this mindset. And that sort of happened during the pandemic, where that has been a byproduct of me and my self-love journey. Mm-hmm. You know, and now I realize, I love what I do. And I seem to have more abundance because I'm just not. I thought in sort of a mindset of lack or not scarcity. Yeah. You can't. And now it's like, oh no. And my patients are, it's just one of the biggest joys that I do to close the door and know that couple, when they're with me, or that patient is going to have an experience, and no one's going to rush us. No one's going to tell me you can't take 50 pictures. Because that would be the other thing, is back in the day of just those images. The patients would walk out and it would be a roll of images. And I'm like, but this is once or twice in your life.
Yeah.
How can you not
have a good experience?
And now that I'm a grandma.
Oh yeah. Total different, right?
It's even like it's that step up even more. Because now I see my kids' age, and their joy of like first-time parents. Oh, and the other cool thing that's the good news is that men come to everything, and we don't celebrate that. That was one of the things that I knew I was onto something when I saw men coming in for the first time. And I have a dad's chair. Mm-hmm. And then because I'm good at it, I'll say, oh my God, look, he has your lips. And you see them. And it's true. But they'll go, oh, I am part of this.
Yeah. That's cute.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's glorious. It's wonderful. I keep thinking that I'm going to take over my business Instagram account and just flood it with little clips from but I don't have.
What kind of time do we have to do this? But I love the idea. Someone take a hold of the idea and do this, please.
Yeah, not my competition, but yeah.
No, your clips. Take your clips, post them. I do love that. And how many grandkids do you have?
7.
Oh, yeah. That's super.
Oh, la, la. 7. My daughter has 5. She's a midwife. She's
Oh,
a
cool.
nurse practitioner midwife. She's
Oh, cool.
amazing. We used to teach together when she was in high school an introduction to young women's health and sexuality.
Oh, love that.
So she turned, I don't know, I like to think that that influenced her.
Oh, yeah. How cool.
Yeah,
I love that you have so much health, your passion for healthcare and being in healthcare
I
has,
did in a way. I think they saw, I think both of them struggle because the system's broken and it
yeah,
doesn't
I
look
know.
after
Hmm.
them the way I think it should. But I'm really proud that they'll be the people that will bring the system back because
Hmm.
she's amazing. She has
And
fun.
Tampa, she's in
She's in
Tampa,
Gainesville.
Gainesville. And then your other daughter is everybody in
Miami.
Florida? Okay, cool.
She is the oldest. She has two. She has a little boy and a little girl, and they're little still. And she works in plastic surgery.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, bizarre. I know. But
And
I
one of
do,
your big things is you never took like hormone replacements or
no,
like plastic
because
surgery, and you did a
no
removal,
plastic, you
right?
can tell no plastic surgery.
You look
But
gorgeous, darling.
thank you, darling. But I'm not ruling out plastic surgery. I just,
Yeah.
I
You're
just don't for
fan
right now.
fucking.
Sometimes you start to look at it. I think Jane Fonda was another one who did it a little later in life,
Yeah.
but I'm not ruling that out. I just,
And when did you do removal? Because I've had a lot of friends recently remove their breast implants. You did a removal?
they were humongous. So I will tell you, if you're thinking of doing a reduction, if you need to lose weight, lose the weight first, because I think we tend to look for the quick fix. And I was so because I got implants as soon as I got divorced because I was going to be a sexy mama in my 40s, right? I was a MILF or whatever the hell I was. I had a younger boyfriend and I had boobies and life was good. And then I got fat again and it just all went to my breasts. And I look at some of those pictures and they were just huge. And I just decided, they've been in for a while. I'm going to do a reduction. But I think I probably should have lost weight first because the bigger you are, then you've got these big visions, where if you're a little smaller, you're not going to have that. But taking them out, oh my God, what a freedom.
I know.
Like for the first time, I mean, most of the time I don't wear a bra.
Yeah, and I've never had breast implants or anything, but my friends who have recently removed them, they're just like, I feel better. Like I physically feel better. I had a yoga instructor who's been a yoga instructor for years. She got them, and she's just like, I just have this like different. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the years have gone by and you just get more self-worth and self-love. But
And then, because I would say I did not make the decision to have implants based on something strictly about me. I was dating a younger guy.
mm-hmm.
And I remember him, I'm like, I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but I remember him saying, oh, you could get implants. And then you just think, oh, here, let me please you. Let me give you the meat.
Yes. Let me give you you're so right. The meat thing is blowing my mind because
why is that meat thing just
I eat meat all the time, by the way, but now I do. But when I was you're ordering the salad or you're ordering like, no, thank you. Give me a slab of give me a burger patty and let me live my life. Okay. I brought a burger patty to Busch Gardens with the kids, and it's a joke to this day. But I'm not going to eat their shit at Busch Gardens. And I had it in my purse in like a foil. In the cooler, because I forgot they got Publix stuff. And I was like, I took it out. I was like, this gives me, like, I'm feeling good. I'm going to have my burger. And everyone's like, did you just bring a burger patty? I was like, 100%. Like 100%.
And it's good. Thank you.
It's like
so I think that decision, haunted me a little bit because I was just like, you didn't make that decision
for you. Yeah.
And so I wonder if explanting a little bit of the mojo that came.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to think of it like that. Yeah, right. Whatever.
I think so.
You're amazing. I love your new project with the improv, bringing into healthcare, and I think improv should be everywhere, to be honest. But
I do too. When I gave my first motivational speech, I said, and I still believe this, I think, in fact, as I continue to do this, it's motivating to hear women's stories, because just like what your podcast is about, we don't listen to ordinary people telling their stories. And once you connect on this level, who knows, this one podcast could just influence one woman. One woman who's in her 60s, or one woman who's in her 40s.
40s, yep.
That says, oh, if that 60-year-old can do that.
I hope 20s too,
And 20s and babies, because they're another age group, that kids that we don't, we have to teach them to kids, right?
So much, yeah. Oh yeah, the self-worth piece, yeah, for sure.
I think that's the spectrum, older and younger, where you feel like you're not seen, right? But one person, that's all it takes. One person. It's a link on the chain, And when I was dealing with the hip, I just thought, don't you go back to.
Yeah, thinking like, yeah.
This is because I say, oh, my hip pain wasn't on my vision board. But then someone said, that's because it's making room for something that is.
Yes. Damn it, hip.
Oh, good. Thank you, hip.
No, but still.
And my friend always says sometimes she thinks the universe has to bitch slap her to get a message. And I feel like this was part of what needed to happen.
Slows you down.
Well,
not in a way, but it like reinvent like another path, another journey that could inspire somebody else. That a hip injury isn't going to stop you.
Yeah, it comes from this generation of believing if you needed a hip replacement, you were about at the end of the arc, right?
Yeah, but no.
No. It's just helping me climb
higher. Oh yeah. Susan for president. So you're amazing. Where can we find you? And then what's the little nugget you want to leave with the listeners? But where can we find you first?
Okay, I'm on Instagram. That's probably the most fun.
Oh yeah.
That's where I
slipped into your DM, Susan. I slipped in there.
I slipped into several DMs, and that's advice that I have. Slip into people. But for a self-love purpose, slip into people's DMs and tell them you should know me.
Yeah.
And Instagram at Kiki Mouse Gets Fit. That is my grandmother name, because when I started my account, I had no idea. I had 20 followers and didn't have any idea what I was doing. So I said, why am I doing this? I want my grandkids to see a badass.
I love it. I'm Aunt Kiki, so I enjoy Grandma Kiki over here. So there's that.
I named myself.
As you should.
The mouse too. I was Kiki, and then they watched so much Disney that one day I became Kiki Mouse.
I love it.
Kiki Mouse Gets Fit. Okay. So that's Instagram. I am on Facebook under my name, Susan Guidi. And one thing that I can leave, I've said this since I started this transformation, and every time I say it, it just rings so true. When you start on a journey of self-love and you start loving yourself, the world just becomes such a better place, because it's so much easier to love everybody else. It becomes that much easier. So self-love, it just teaches you how to fly, you know?
I love that, Susan. You can find Susan on katyray.com, Not a Great Whisperer podcast, at The Real K Ray. You are I'm excited. We're fast friends. It's over. You're stuck with me forever.
I hope so.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for joining today.
It was so plastic. Like, we didn't even know it was a podcast. It was just like,
so much fun. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.